yet. Station modes at this moment it's a nav, it can also show heading or localizer. So right now we're getting pretty near our destination airport of Amsterdam, as you can see here, and we're going to start preparing our MCD for the approach. First thing you want to do, and for this, there's not an acronym like for preparing before takeoff. There's just a little. Right now we are starting to approach our the airport of Amsterdam, so we're going to prepare our MCD for the approach. First, we want to go to our flight plan. We need to enter the correct flight plan, and I'm talking about star right here, for the approach. As you can see at this moment, it's just a straight line flying direct to the airport, and we don't want that. We're going to hit the airport key, and we're going to hit the button left of the EHAM, which is our destination airport. We're then going to hit arrival, and we're going to select the runway. Now, how do I know which runway? Well, I'm going to go to the MCD menu, I'm going to go to ACARS, I'm going to go to weather, and I request a METAR again for EHAM. Now I can check. Now according to the METAR, the wind is going to come from a heading of 340 at 11 knots. That's pretty much a northern wind. So I'm going to go back to my flight plan page and hit airport again. Select EHAM. I'm going to go to arrival. And since the wind is coming from the north, I want a runway that's pretty much going to the north. For example, ILS 13C. So I'm select ILS 13C, and I'm going to select the arrival. Now at this moment I don't have any charts, but you can use charts for this. But I will simply use my ND. I'm going to select the first one. As you can see, this arrival is kind of redundant. So I can select the second one, third one. Scroll down the pages with the arrows and choose another one. Till I find one that might be more appropriate. For example, this one seems to be extremely appropriate. Now I need to choose a transition. Now which transition to choose? There are many transitions I can choose. It's a Sugo transition, and for this you really need an approach chart. I'm going to choose the RTIP transition and hit insert. Now to check everything, I'm going to go to plan mode. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to scroll down on the MCDU with the arrows, and then I can follow my flight plan. As you see, it will actually go to SPL, and I know from being flying to EHAM lots that SPL is right on top of the tower, that VUR, and it's going to fly away from the airport, turn around, and come back for landing. Pretty valid approach, I would say. And as you can see, it ends up being in EHAM. So, and these points right here, this is the ILS configuration. So, we now have our flight plan set. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my radio navigation page. Now what do you want into your radio navigation? Obviously the ILS frequency. My approach chart for runway 36C in Amsterdam. Now I can see right here that the frequency is 108.75. So that's when I program in my MCDU. I'm going to go to my radio navigation page, and I'm going to type in 108.75, and I'm going to hit VUR1, and there it goes. At this moment, because I'm not near enough to the airport, it does not see it being as the ILS frequency, but if you're near enough to the airport, it will actually drop down and go right here, and you can set the course. Now I'm already set the course. The course, according to the approach chart, is 004, and I'm going to hit that on the course. You need to set the course so that when you go on ILS mode on the navigation display, it will make sense. Now once this is done, I want to go to the progress page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write EHAM, and then the runway, which is 36C, and I'm going to hit this button right here. And it will pop up here, and it will show my exact distance to the threshold of the runway 36C and the bearing. It's great to know kind of approximately how long it's still going to take. I can then go to my preference page. I'm going to hit next phase, and I'm going to set my descent. Now this seems to be good speeds. I'm going to go next page and approach page. Now first of all, I'm going to check the transition level. And according to my chart, transition level is 6.0 in Amsterdam. And the decision height, which is found on the bottom of the chart, is for category D 166. So I'm going to select 166 and hit decision height. I can also select if it's going to be configuration 3, so flaps 3 landing or flaps 4 landing. I'm going to select flaps 4 landing. Finally, it's always great to check your fuel prediction page. I need to make sure that my gross weight is under my maximum gross weight for landing, which is 180 tons, which means that I'm good for landing. That is all you really need to do to prepare your MCDU for the approach. More you'll have to do once we start descending, and obviously when we're on final. At this moment, the autopilot has calculated that we need to start descending approximately at that point. However, if most of the people that have flown with an Airbus is extremely slow in descending, so I mostly start descending much way before that point. Approximately around here would be appropriate. Now, to what do you descend? Well, I'm going to follow my flight plan to be able to see that. At this point, I need to be below 28,000 feet. When I go further, at that point I need to be below 10,000 feet. And then it's going to be really confusing because there's lots of points over there. So I'm going to say, okay, how about we descend to 9,000 feet? Therefore, we'll satisfy that point being under 28,000 feet, and we'll satisfy that constraint, which is under 10,000 feet. So I'm going to start descending to 10,000 feet. I'm going to enter 10,000 feet in my FCU. And I'm going to left click on the knob to engage optimal descent, open descent. So on my PView I can now see that open descent is set and more drag is set, which means it's trying to get as much drag as possible to descend as much as possible. Throttle, thrust is set to idle, and just as a quick note, if the autopilot is not slowing fast enough, we have this thing called air brakes, also known as speed brakes. However, do not extend into full. You can, in air, you're only allowed to extend into the half position, but you can always extend it to the half position if required to do so. A final note, this little blue arrow here shows me when it's predicting to have reached 10,000 feet, and now it's going a little away, but it always moves around depending on your vertical speed. At this moment we have just entered Dutch airspace, and we've just established ourselves at 10,000 feet. I'd just like to give you a quick note about constraints, which are automatically set if you entered the star automatically. For example, this next point, it's asking me to climb to be at 10,000 feet and 250 knots. Sorry. Up there, it's asking me to be at 220 knots. And then it's a little hard to see, but it's asking me to be at 7,000 feet, then 3,000 feet, and it's really hard to see, but it also says I have to be at 2,000 feet on my final approach fix. You always need to be, you need to also pass those constraints, so if it's telling you to fly 220 knots, make sure you're at 220 knots when you reach that point. But that's just a question of entering the correct speed or altitude or whatever it is into your FCU.